it's me, Nate, aka Devil Dog, and I'm back with a new game review. This time I'm doing a retro review of The Legend of Dragoon. It was developed by SCE Japan Studio and published by Sony Computer Entertainment and was released on June 13th of 2000 on the PlayStation system. It was re-released later on the PlayStation Network on December 22nd of 2010, and because of all the sales it made, it achieved cult status due to fans who loved the touching story and the gameplay mechanics. It originally sold over 960,000 copies in North America alone, and it was considered to be a massive RPG designed to compete with the likes of the Final Fantasy series, but because of its general RPG tropes that it followed, many called it a rather generic RPG that borrowed too heavily from other games. Now, the game took over 3 years to develop with a group of around 100 members and cost Sony $16 million to develop, and the general plot consists of the main protagonist, Dart, coming home after 5 years pursuing an evil guy who killed his family and destroyed his whole town. He rescues his love interest, Shayna, and throughout the journey to uncover the overall plot and stop evil from destroying the world, you are joined by several other characters and at the end suffer the loss of others to stop the God of Destruction. The overall gameplay is very similar to Final Fantasy games, with slower battles though. It features turn-based combat with polygonal character models set in a 3D background during battles, but uses pre-rendered backgrounds similar to Final Fantasy 7 and 8 during exploration of the areas and dungeons. Now, the overall world map uses a 3D polygonal view with the ability to zoom in and out with your button trigger, and as you progress far enough into the game, you did get the ability to fast travel with a character, I think his name is Kulon or something like that. Now, when you're in the outside world, you are allowed to save at any time as long as you're not in the middle of a fight, but when you're in dungeons and exploration areas, you would have to find like a glowing orb to save. Now, the overall world map was kind of lame. You couldn't really move around like you wanted. It was basically a set dotted path that you would take, but all in all, that wasn't too big of a deal. And when you would fast travel, it would basically just bring up a map and you would click to the location and it would allow you to warp to the next general area. The overall combat did have a really cool timed combo mechanic where you would use the square button at the right time to get longer combos. It kind of reminded me similar to Squall's Gunblade in Final Fantasy VIII, and it also had the ability if you press circle button at a certain time you could counter. But however, there's so many battles that you would get into in a constant loading every 10 seconds or so, and the loading was a bit of annoying. And when fighting, seemed like there was only two battle themes throughout the whole damn game. Your basic main monster battle theme and your boss music, and it got annoying very, very quick. Now, as you progress, the story got almost sort of like I would say limit break style moves, and you even got this meter that was very similar to Final Fantasy VII's. And when you would cast your magic and stuff, you have this ability where you can mash the button to where you can make your magic stronger and increase the magic potency, which did remind me a lot of Final Fantasy VII in a way. And overall, the length of the game is pretty lengthy. It'll take you about 40 to 80 hours long to beat it. And now I found even with the good game animations in this game, the character models were subpar Final Fantasy in terms of quality of graphics. The polygonal models of them were friggin' terrible. The texture detail was awful. I had them to where they would tear apart and break, and really all in all it was very, very bad. And considering that this game came out after Final Fantasy VIII, that's really kind of sad. For the amount of money that they spent on this game, it should have been way, way, way better. And there's several other things I gotta say about this game, and I don't want to seem nitpicky, but I just gotta complain about these things. For one thing, you constantly have to use heal potions. Now, normally that wouldn't be that bad, but in this game, every friggin' time you have to use your heal potions. So even after you beat a battle and you get to a save point like most RPG games when you would save, you figure that would give you all your life back. No, not in this game. This game, you would still have to use your heal potions to actually heal, and you have a very limited amount of items you can carry in your inventory, which actually turns into a really pain in the ass. Now, also, when you fight certain bosses, most of the bosses, they're long and drawn-out battles that are poorly thought out, that take way too long, because mainly a lot of times these bosses have these different moves where they'll move around in the area of the battle, and a lot of your characters you have will not be able to reach him and attack him at certain points. So you may have someone that will have close-up melee attacks and some that have range attacks. Well, the people with the melee attacks won't be able to attack at that point, and the only thing they can really do is either heal the other people to keep them alive, or you can block, which will get you like a 10% health regeneration. But besides that, and like I said, the bosses take way too damn long to actually beat. Now, I did like one aspect that you have this triangle over your head wherever you go that'll change colors depending to let you know when the enemies are going to be attacking you. It'll start off green to let you know no enemies, but as you go it'll turn yellow and red, and once it gets to red you'll pretty much realize you're about to get into a random battle occurrence. Well, that's great, but it happens so goddamn much it gets so fucking annoying. The only thing I can say that I do really enjoy is some of the areas in this game will actually have the enemies on screen that you actually can physically see, and if you don't want to fight them you can physically just run from them and actually not get attacked. And that kind of reminds me of Lunar Silver Star, which I liked way better. But that's not the only thing I gotta talk about. Now here's some more. Now, I know a lot of people really love this game, but I definitely have to say one of the biggest things I had a problem with was pretty much the overall way that you would heal. Now, as you got farther along in the game, you did have better, stronger spells, but the only real way to heal is you couldn't use save points to heal. You had to go to either a fucking inn or use some rock fireflies or a certain camp in order to get your your health back, because you couldn't fucking do it at a damn save point, which I've never played an RPG game in history that's ever done that. But that's not that really big of a deal. You can kind of get past that. But it's the other fucking aspects of this game that you get through, you just start realizing that it is a really mediocre RPG. Now, I know a lot of people love this game, and that's fine. You can love this game, but if you got to think about, take off your nostalgia goggles for a little minute and go back in time when this game actually fucking came out and compare it to the games at that time. Now, when I played this, I did not compare it to any games that were modern. I went back in the time. I got in my time machine. I went back in time. I got my ass to Mars, and I pretty much played the game trying to set aside any sort of things like graphic-wise. I'm sorry, but the overall translation was fucking terrible in this game, but right about that time I let that go, because a lot of games during this time when it came out actually had really bad translations. But you got to think, this game came out in 2000, okay? 2000. That wasn't that fucking long ago. Still a good amount of time away, but for its time, at the time this came out, it came out after big hits like Part 7 and Final Fantasy VIII. And when you have a game that you're trying to make your quote version of a Final Fantasy in order to jump on the bandwagon with Final Fantasy, you've got to do more than this to make a name for yourself. This is a mediocre RPG, and I hate to say it, it's not that good for its time. The graphics aren't that great, even though it does have some really neat mechanics. Most all the mechanics they have in it, they pretty much stole from other games. The plot, which is very good, gets overly complicated, and it does have a fantastic lore to the game. And I did like how a lot of the characters, quote, even though they weren't written in a way to where they really had much personality at all, but they did evolve as characters as you went through and progressed the game. And it did have a rather somewhat bittersweet ending to it. It does have all the tropes of every RPG in history. It's got your main characters fucking dying. It's got all these twist endings. It's got this magic, super overpowerful stuff. It's got highs and lows to it, but all in all, when you get down to the fact, it is a mediocre game that does not do justice to what it was trying to play homage to. This is not a good game. I'm sorry, I did not like this game at all. And the fact of the matter is, I know a lot of people are going to not like this, but when you really take the highs and the lows for this game, and you try to actually take it into context of all the good aspects and all the bad aspects, I kept coming up with a lot more bad aspects than good. And the good aspects weren't original. They were pretty much carbon copies of other games that were done better and earlier, I might add. So, my final review of The Legend of Dragoon, if you were to go back in time and either buy this game, rent this game, or pass on it, I would have passed on it. I don't think it was that good at its time. And, naturally, of course, it didn't hold up good today by today's standards. And it sure as hell didn't look good playing on an HD TV set. But nonetheless, I played it, and I didn't like it at all. So this is Nate, aka Devil Dog, and I'm saying I want to thank everybody that subscribes to my channel. I want to thank everybody who watches my videos, and I definitely want a special thanks out to a certain individual who actually went and, he played the game I got him, so I played the game he recommended. And in the end, I think we pretty much have the same feeling mutual. I liked the one game, he liked this game, and we both kind of disagreed with each other. But that's the great thing. You're allowed to do that, people. You can actually do that. It's called having an opinion. But I want to thank everybody. Remember, I want to end my video by saying, remember people, have fun, play hard, and remember, the devil is in the details. Peace out.